Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me at this time. My name is Shavi Zane, and I'm coming on to bring a message for the chosen. I want to start off by saying, for those of you who are spiritual warriors out there, it's time for us to do another declaration. This is in regards to the so-called police department. I want to start off with the declaration before I move on to the other part of my message. So this is going to be written on a black candle with a permanent marker. You're going to write, I declare and decree swift destruction upon the heads of all cops and authoritative figures who have committed intentional murder and crimes against the melanated men, women, and children in America, in spirit and in flesh, across all timelines, realms, and dimensions. So this is a necessary declaration because it's become very clear and apparent that what is happening in front of our eyes on the TV screen through these so-called police cams, these, news broadcasts and stories that's being, brought forth to the public, these are literally public initiation rituals that these so-called police officers are participating in. I'm going to say that again. These are public initiation rituals that the so-called police officers are participating in. These are not mistakes. These are not so-called officers who are just, in a moment not thinking clearly. These are not angry so-called officers who, reacted too swiftly. No, these are not officers who need more training. No, this is literally public initiation rituals, no different than being jumped into a gang, which these police officers have become, and they are. They've always been, actually. Everything was rooted in racism. When they first began these so-called police departments, they recruited many people who did not like the melanated man, woman, and child from the very beginning. What we are seeing in front of our eyes is repeat situations of initiation rituals. What are they being initiated into? We know that there is a target towards the melanated man specifically here in America. This thing has spread beyond the melanated man to becoming an issue even with the women and the children. And this is because these people are getting elevated in their ranking. They're receiving bonuses behind the scenes. They're getting paid. They're receiving accolades. They're receiving initiation into secret societies. They are doing this to prove that they are down for the cause of killing melanated men, women, and children. Many of these so-called police officers have committed blatant crimes on camera. They do not care. I literally just got done watching a clip of a so-called police officer, two so-called police officers in Florida. The man was handcuffed in the back of the vehicle, and the so-called police officer began to shoot over 20 rounds into the vehicle of the car that the man was already handcuffed in because he heard an acorn fall and claimed that he assumed that it was a gunshot, and then laid out on the ground saying that he was hit by imaginary bullets that were never, no rounds were shot by this man because he was handcuffed in the car. That's one circumstance. Another circumstance, a brown Hispanic man who is homeless, nowhere to go, gets arrested for so-called loitering, even though he was just laying there sleeping in the backyard. It could have been handled a different way. They put him in the back of the car, literally was forcefully driving erratically, and this man is now in a nursing home. He was completely fine, walking, no problems. Now he's in a nursing home for the rest of his life, amputated, because they banged him around so much his head rammed into the back of the police van and paralyzed him, and they had to amputate his legs. So now his quality of life is completely destroyed. This is not even to mention the Trayvon Martins and the many others who have lost their lives for senseless reasons. This is not a coincidence. These are not police officers that need to be trained. These are beings who are being initiated into secret societies. They are doing this publicly to let their authority figures, or whoever they look up to, let them know publicly that they are willing to be a part of the mission of destroying the melanated man, woman, and child. And it's time that we start to realize this. A lot of people didn't want to accept it for that, because you want to assume that these public servants are here to serve the public. You want to assume that your tax dollars are contributing to police officers who have an agenda to protect and serve. But this has been countless. I mean, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, the list goes on and on and on and on and on, to the point where it can no longer be denied. And many people are afraid to come forward and say this, because these gang members who have badges roam the streets. Everywhere you go, they're out looking for something to get into, looking for a way to get initiated into these secret societies. There was another circumstance where a woman was arrested with her daughter, just sitting in her car, arrested with her teenage daughters, actually, after traveling hours. She's sitting outside of Starbucks, resting in her car before she gets ready to go in. And this so-called police officer, aka gang member, comes up and says, "Hey, well, I've been receiving calls that there's been break-ins in this parking lot. So, I need to see your photo ID." She refused to give him the ID because it's a no-show ID state. He didn't have a reason to ask for it, because she was just simply sitting in her car resting after long travels. And so he began to forcefully handcuff and arrest this woman with her children. And he ended up getting promoted to captain. Of course, she filed a lawsuit and won, but he got promoted to captain in his police department. These are public initiation rituals that these people continue to perform to let the world know and to let their higher ups know that they are down for the cause of harassing, performing criminal activity, the outright murder and sacrifice of the melanated man, woman, and child. And so this ritual that we're being called to do against these beings and all of these so-called authoritative figures who are promoting this behavior, who are promoting this criminal activity, they are now being called up for judgment before the Most High and our spiritual team. We can no longer sit on our hands. These rituals are to establish their destruction in whatever way, whatever means the Most High sees fit. But this has to come to an end, and we have to start in the spiritual realm first. We got to do the spiritual alchemy first. We cannot continue to just sit on our hands and passively watch these situations occur. Marching is not enough. Okay? Going to these so-called politicians is not enough. This has happened so many times that it is very, very clear that these so-called politicians do not give a damn about the life, about the dignity, about honor. They do not care about integrity. They only care about power. And they only care about inciting fear and terror in the minds and hearts of the melanated men, women, and children here in America. You can't even drive without questioning whether or not you will get pulled over, and will that circumstance lead to your demise. You can't even hardly send your sons out here into the streets to just go and have a regular day without fear that one of these gang members with a badge will come up and try to, say that they heard an acorn fall and it must have been a gunshot. Or I was fearful for my life, so I had to take theirs. This has become a clear, blatant, public initiation ritual, and it's time that we call it exactly what it is and stop dancing around this thing and saying that these people, they need more training. Oh, they were scared. Oh, this is it happens to be a police officer or in a department that's just, mentally deranged. No, this is not by happenstance. This is not happening all across America by happenstance. It's very clear these situations are becoming so blatantly ridiculous and outlandish that it's very clear that these things are being done on purpose, and they are allowing these beings to get away with doing these things on purpose so that the message goes out to the melanated man, woman, and child in America that you are not safe. You are not protected, and we have a direct target towards you. That's the message that they want to make loud and clear. That you do not have to commit a crime. You do not have to do anything to harm others in order for these people to harm you. That's the message loud and clear. And this is why this ritual needs to be done. Now, I encourage you all, add in whatever you need to add to this ritual in order to, ensure that the impact is felt. But this has to be done as a collective. We have done rituals before against the police department, but it's time that we come together and do another one. We're lighting a candle. We're putting it out there. Before this eclipse comes, we are establishing a massive shift. We are establishing a massive shift. If some of you want to do it together and light the candle on the 8th, we can set that as the date of lighting this candle. I'll repeat the declaration again before I close. I declare and decree swift destruction upon the heads of all cops and authoritative figures who have committed intentional murder and crimes against the melanated man, woman, and child in America, in spirit and in flesh, across all timelines, realms, and dimensions known and unknown. Write that on the glass of a black candle with a permanent marker, and give thanks to the Most High, your angels and your ancestors, for stepping in to do the heavy lifting to ensure that destruction comes. Swift destruction has to happen. We can't just keep on sitting back and passively allowing this to take place. We're spiritual warriors. We have divine authority to call judgment upon these beings, and it's time that we do. And any time that you eyewitness these things take place, if you happen to be watching the news and you see this happening, if you happen to be a eyewitness in the physical realm and you see this happening, if you happen to be a victim of the situation, I pray that you are not, then you have to call swift judgment. Call swift judgment. Don't ever watch a clip of these pigs, these gang members, and not call swift judgment. Say it out loud. I declare and decree that swift judgment is cast upon their heads and all authoritative figures who promote that behavior. Say it out loud whenever you're watching these clips. Don't just allow yourself to shake your head and say, this is terrible. No, call swift judgment. Put the energy out into the universe. We got to start in the spiritual realm first in order for this thing to collapse in the physical. As above, so below. So that's my message for you all. I appreciate everyone who is going to join us in doing this ritual against these gang members. things have to change. Things are changing, and we're going to ensure that swift change happens. I love you all, and I'll talk to you all next time.